Hey guys, it's Adrian. Hope you are doing well. I wanted to do a quick give you my thoughts on what to do if and when you lose a pageant. God forbid. Now, I guess it's not a particularly positive episode, so to speak, but I think it's very important that I think with any disappointment in life, and certainly if you, I recently was speaking to someone who I know who hadn't done as well at a pageant as she had wanted. And I asked her how she was feeling because I never assume. I never assume that if you come first runner up, you'll be happy with it. And I never assume that if you don't place that, you'll be unhappy with it. So I asked, and she said she was crushed. And that, that kind of broke my heart because she's very intelligent, very goal oriented, works very hard, works in an industry where generally you would say those people are underappreciated. So, she's a good person, if I can put it that way, in air quotes. And I never like to see anyone like that who's worked really hard for something be disappointed with their results, especially when they work so hard. So, I think the first thing that I want to say is it's okay to be upset. And in many ways, I think it's more than okay, it's natural. And the reason that you're upset, and this can be very difficult to explain to someone who doesn't know pageants, or it's just difficult to explain sometimes why you're upset or why you're obsessed with something to someone who just doesn't get it. It doesn't just have to be pageantry, it could be painting, it could be making rocking chairs, it could be gaming, whatever it is. Trying to explain to someone why you're so passionate about it or why you're so obsessed with it to someone who's outside that industry who doesn't share that passion, it's almost pointless. I'm at a point in my life where I've pretty much given up trying to explain it because people aren't even that interested anyway to really listen. But they doubly so if they ask why you're upset, very often they won't understand. And secondly, they might ask, and they don't mean anything bad by it. So there's no malice attached to it. But they say, oh, it's just a pageant. Like, just can't you just get over it or just move on? And it's well intended advice. As I said, I don't want to say that those people are bad or mean anything evil by it. But it is completely natural for you to feel upset because you cared about it, right? I mean, that goes without saying. If you didn't care about the outcome, you wouldn't be upset because it didn't happen. And what you are actually going through right now, or some of you are about to go through because it's pageant season, and most of you are not going to win, it is actually similar. In fact, it's almost exactly a mourning process. I don't mean mourning as in the opposite of night, but mourning as if you've ever had a loved one or a friend pass away or a pet pass away, you go through a phase, a period of mourning. Now, there are different phases to mourning, and depending on what it is you've lost, the mourning period lasts a different amount of time, and each period can last a different amount of time, and everyone mourns in their own way. But believe me, when there is real wisdom in time heals all. It really, really does. You may not want to hear it right now, but it really does. And a week from now, I guarantee you'll be feeling better. 2 weeks from now, even better. A month from now, even better. I'm not going to put a timeline on it because I know people who've lost pageants and have become very depressed about it for periods of months, maybe even years. And that's okay. I mean, I don't want you to be upset any longer than you feel you have to be, not because I'm pushing you to hey, stop feeling sorry for yourself. No, 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 no. It's not that. It's I don't want to see you upset. And I'm one of those people who feels that if you're upset, you're not going to be doing as well as you could be in life. And I'd rather see you happy. Generally, happy people are more productive. They're enjoying their life more. Being sad is not the end result that we're after. But why would you be going through a mourning phase? Like you might ask, well, Adrian, nothing has died. Well, actually, your dream has died or your expectation has died. And when I say that, I mean you had an expectation as to where you wanted to place or what you wanted to achieve or a certain dream that you had or expectations that if I achieved XYZ, then this was going to happen and now it can't happen. And what you're going through is in effect mourning the death of that dream, or that or the death of that expectation that you were holding very, very close to you. So it is completely normal for you to not be feeling so great after you lose a pageant. And it might not be a loss, it might just be you didn't perform as well as you thought you should have or could have. And there could be any number of reasons of that, but it's completely normal. Now, having said that, my hope here is that if I can explain that to you, maybe it'll help you get through it and recover a bit faster. Because the last thing that you need is when you're feeling sad and feeling down for someone to tell you, you shouldn't be feeling down. There are starving kids in Africa. Come on, pull yourself together, because that's really not helpful. And people say, oh, it's just in your head. Well, that's all we have. Anything that we think, feel, or do is in our head, or at least starts in our head. So that's what I want to say to you first off. And if that's all you listen to, that would be more than enough. It's okay for you to be feeling sad, upset, angry, resentful, like maybe you wasted your time. That's just, to me, it's normal. Anytime you want something bad and you didn't get it, it didn't work out the way you want it. Maybe it's a relationship, maybe it's a job, maybe it's a financial goal, maybe you were trying to get a house and it didn't work out. It's normal to be a bit upset. Now, what might help you to get through that is explaining, at least, now this is not science-based, but it's kind of based on what I would call some science, but more based on common sense. We know that it would be better if you didn't get upset, right? Life would be great if we never get upset. But there's a reason that getting upset happens. And, it's not a religion. I'm not talking about religion here. I'm not talking about any positive thinking, esoteric stuff. What happens is when you go through a pain, and losing a pageant or not doing as well, it doesn't have to be losing, just not doing as well. Maybe you wanted to make top 10 and you didn't, and that could be losing in your mind. But what happens is it's painful, right? Your nervous system is telling your brain, hey, this experience that we just went through, this is really painful. And your brain isn't very good at distinguishing between emotional pain and physical pain. I think in many respects, they're one and the same thing to your brain. And what happens, for example, the first time you get burnt as a child, your brain goes, hey, that was really painful. So let's make sure we never do that again. And you'll see that most children and most animals get burnt once and they never get burnt again. Because what is your nervous system wired to do? Well, it's wired to help you survive, not succeed. Your nervous system is wired to help you survive. And if you go through something painful, your brain starts looking for all the ways to make sure that pain never happens again. Because continuous pain equals continuous damage, and continuous damage eventuates in death, emotionally or physically. So what you are feeling right now, it serves a purpose. You are going through pain, and your brain is desperately searching for a way to avoid that pain in the future. I really need you to understand that there's a reason for this pain. And, you could say everything happens for a reason. I'm not even talking about that. At a very base biological level, you're going through something painful and your brain is desperately searching for a way to make sure you never have to go through that pain again. Because again, it's not very good at distinguishing between emotional and physical pain, and continuous pain equals death eventually. I'm not talking about suicide, trigger warning. I'm just talking about emotionally and physically. Your brain's not very good at distinguishing, and it doesn't want you to continually be going through damage or through something painful. The problem with this is, okay, so your brain, your nervous system is searching for how can we avoid this pain in the future? And with pageantry, the problem is you may not very know well what the answer is to that. You may have done everything perfectly and you still didn't do as well as you wanted. You may have worked your butt off. You may have gotten all these sponsors. You may have had all these people turn up to support you. You did everything. You nailed the walk. You nailed the interview. And it still didn't work out the way you wanted it to. So now you've got a problem. You're in pain. Brain is now searching for a way to avoid that pain. Your brain can't figure out how to avoid the pain in future because it doesn't know what you did wrong. And the thing is, you may not have done anything wrong, But if you want to enter maybe, let's say, a pageant in the future, enter the same pageant again, let's say next year, and this year was really, really painful, and your brain can't work out a way to avoid having that pain again, it's no wonder that you can sort of be split into two and have these sort of conflicting messages in your head where on one hand it's incredibly painful, but on the other hand you want to do it again, but you don't know what to do in order to avoid that pain happening again. And if you don't do the hard work, if you don't do the inner work, I'm not talking about the walking and the interview, I'm talking about the inner work. If you don't do the inner work to build your resilience against this sort of emotional damage, the same thing could happen again. Because pageantry is unlike many other things in life. There's very little in pageantry that's objective. It's almost entirely subjective. So your brain, when it's searching for a way to avoid having the same pain in the future, it basically draws a blank. Apart from maybe saying, well, we're never doing a pageant again, or well, we're not entering this system again, or I'm never working with that coach again, or that judge was corrupt, or this person didn't like me, etc., etc. And if your brain can't come up with a good reason, it'll come up with a bad reason, because that's what it has to do in order to keep us alive. The problem is your brain hasn't had an update in probably a couple of million years. Your brain was geared to help you survive when there were tigers chasing after you. Your brain didn't evolve to deal with the vicissitudes, like that word, vicissitudes of pageantry. So I really want you to get that. The pain is there for a reason. And it's a good reason. It wants to keep you from feeling that pain again. But if you want to succeed in life, and at least in the world that we live in today, avoiding pain is not a really good way of succeeding. In fact, avoiding pain probably guarantees failure, because if you want to achieve anything in life, you and I both know this, you're going to have to risk failing at some point. And maybe if you don't fail on what you're trying now, there's going to be a failure at some point in the future. And that's when you're going to really need to know how to deal with it. Now, I've said before that the best way to succeed in pageantry is to have an amazing life outside of it. Now, it may be a little too late for you to hear that if you've already lost and you're upset and you're despondent, or maybe it's not, right? And why do I say the best way to succeed in pageantry is based on having something outside of it? Is because the only real remedy that I found work for people, let's say people who've lost a pageant and every right to be upset, and yes, they're upset in the moment, but they bounce back very quickly. It's normally people who have something else going on in their life that's more important, which gives us that age-old tonic or remedy of perspective. And I've spoken about having perspective many, many times, and some people don't like hearing it, because I've said in the past that maybe the solution to a lot of your problems is actually perspective. And I say that knowing full well, for example, that you might be going through some financial hard times, for example, and that's terrible. But there are people who are doing worse. You are maybe going through a health challenge, like when we're going through the pandemic, but there were people who got it worse. And if you only have to keep an eye on the news, and I don't really like looking at the news because it's precisely filled with all these disasters in life and people being absolutely horrible to one another. But this is why I say the best way to succeed in pageantry is to build an amazing life outside of it, because it gives you that perspective. The perspective puts pageantry in its proper place, and that gives you the resilience. So I'm not saying that you're invincible to being upset. What I'm saying is you go, well, yeah, that happened. I don't like it. And I don't really care because I'm moving on. I care, but I don't care that much, because what I care about more is X, Y, Z. Could be my career, my health, my life, just having gratitude, my partner, my family, whatever it is. The people I fear for the most are the people who don't have anything else going on in their life. And that sounds a bit harsh. Well, let me clarify. You might have an amazing career. It might pay you really well. But maybe it's a career that really bores you, or you know it's really wrong, or maybe you just hate it. Maybe you got a relationship, but you know that you've settled for that relationship and the relationship is way past its use-by date and it's just comfortable. There's no excitement there. There's no excitement in your relationship. There's no excitement in your career. And maybe because there's no excitement and every day you're bored, you're sort of salving that boredom by overeating or over drinking or taking drugs, smoking, whatever it is. And now you're a bit out of shape. So your health is gone. And as your physical health goes, you're not in the best physical shape. Your mental health, your emotional health all begin to sort of suffer as well. This is what I mean by not having an amazing life. I need you to create a life. And that should be all our goals, I think, if I can be so bold as to say. We should be creating a life that we're excited about, that gives us some fulfillment. Not that we're happy with every moment of every day. No one's happy every moment of every day unless you're clinically insane. But something that gives us enough meaning, and fulfillment that when something bad happens, we can get through it. We have that perspective. We have that resilience. And I have to tell you that the number of people who I've had to work with and coach and counsel who've been really upset when they've lost a pageant or, again, not done as well as they wanted to, the number of times I look at them and I look at their life and they've got nothing going on in their life that they're super excited about. To me, that's the remedy right there. Go to work on your life, invest in your life, create fulfillment, create meaning, whatever that means to you. And there's many ways of doing it. It could be in a relationship. It could be a relationship with God. It could be your career. It could be your finances. It could be your family. It could be your friends. Giving back contributions, start a 501c3, whatever it is. All of those are great ideas. But I need you to create a life you're excited about. Nothing worries me more than someone who's trying to use a pageant as an escape, hoping that it will create some sense of meaning or fulfillment in their life when they win, because history is littered with the people who thought achieving something would make them happy, and it just didn't. It doesn't work, full stop. What actually makes us happy and fulfilled and alive, and you can look at this in the brain, there's fascinating research coming out right now, it literally is the pursuit of the goal. It's not the goal itself. It's the pursuit of the goal. Now, the problem is, I think you should be, or the challenge, you should be pursuing a goal that's going to fill you with fulfillment and some feeling of success no matter what. Something that's going to, you can build and build and build, that is largely under your control. You put in the work, you're going to get some sort of result. And unfortunately, I have to say, pageantry is not that. In pageants, we don't crown the person who worked the hardest. If we do, it's a happy coincidence. But have you noticed there's no scoring section that says person who worked hardest gets a 50% bonus? So if you are not completely thrilled with your life, or you're not excited about your life, and you've lost a pageant and you're upset, my first best step for you is take time away. Remember, it's a mourning process you're going through, and it takes time. The best way to get through that time is to have something else going on in your life. If you don't have that right now, by the way, distract yourself. Throw yourself into creating life. Try something new. Try something bold. Try something out there. We're not happy with how things are right now, so let's try something different. Because the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. So try something different. Try a new hobby. Try dancing, try painting, try cooking. Not because you're going to become the best chef in the world, but because you might find a skill that you never knew existed, or you might find something that holds your interest, and at the very least that can distract you through the mourning period, and hopefully build a skill and build a life where you're going to become more resilient. And you can always come back to pageantry after you feel like, yes, emotionally I built those foundations a little bit stronger. So does that make sense? So my remedy really for dealing with losses in pageantry has nothing to do with pageantry, because the pain you're going through right now has nothing to do with pageantry. It's got to do with understanding how your brain works, understanding that it's actually trying to fight for your survival, and find a way to avoid having this same pain in the future. And then the best way to get through the pain is to build your resilience, at least long term, because we can't avoid pain. It's just a fact of life. We're going to deal with losses. The only thing we can really do is hopefully become stronger and stronger to the point where what would have crushed us before isn't quite as crushing now. Now, I will say the one thing, aside from time and throwing yourself back into your life and having perspective, the one practical thing I will give you is a debrief, a download, a dump, or rant. Now, I know people who have found journaling to be very helpful with that. I also know people who just need a friend that they can dump on, and I don't mean emotionally, but just rant on. Just that, would that rant where you have no emotional filter and you truly express how upset you were and how this person was like that and how that person was like that, and they don't even really have to reply. They're just there to listen to it, and you can just get it all off your chest. And then afterwards, you watch those people, and they tend to afterwards look like they've dumped a 10-ton load on you, and they kind of have. But you can see that they've gotten the weight off of their chest and off of their shoulders. And when it comes to a dump like that, I don't necessarily feel bad afterwards. I actually feel good that I helped someone get through something tough. But holding it inside, I don't recommend. So journaling, if you don't have, I mean, I say if you don't have a friend you can dump on, I mean, can you phone someone? If you don't have someone right there, can you phone someone? Can you get on an Instagram phone call, a video phone call, whatever it is? Get on with your mum, your dad, your partner, whatever it is, and just say, hey, look, this stuff happened. I'm really upset about it. Can I just dump on you for 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 5 hours, whatever it is? Because it's really upsetting me. And then after that, you don't have to say anything. Just listen. If you can actually listen, it'd be great. If you just need to pretend that you're listening, I understand that. But get it off your chest. So as I said, journaling and writing it out can really help you formulate your thoughts and can help you understand why you're upset, what you're upset about. And then that can actually help you. Remember what I said about your brain, your nervous system is trying to figure out how to avoid this pain in the future. Writing it out can really force you to organize your thoughts. And one of the benefits of that is that you may help your brain find a way to avoid feeling this pain in the future. Now, it might be, hey, I entered the wrong pageant. It might be, hey, I built my self esteem on the wrong thing. I built my self esteem on what other people thought of me. Now I'm going to build my self esteem on how hard I've worked. That's going to be my focal point. So I hope that helps. And if you're going through pain, I feel for you. And it's one of the reasons why I never would want to enter pageants, is because the judgment in pageantry, it feels very personal. I would be happy to play a sport and come last because I know, well, hey, I scored fewer baskets, I scored fewer goals, whatever it was. Okay, I didn't do well, I deserve to lose. Pageantry, you never really get that clarity, do you? You never really get that closure. If you're lucky, you get a mark, but you rarely get to know who gave you that mark and why. And very often they may not know either. So pageantry can feel very, very personal, which can make the pain even worse. But hopefully you found some use in this, even if it's just me, as I said, telling you that, hey, it's all right to be feeling bad. That's completely normal. Or at the very least, why the pain exists, and why you're going through it is because your brain and your nervous system are trying to find a way to avoid the same pain in the future. So if you have any questions about any of that, do let me know. You can send me a message or email me on info@thepageantproject.com. But I know that with pageant season in full swing right now, I mean, there's just the ones I know, there's United National Miss, USA National Miss going on. Miss Collegiate America just happened, and the girls are at Miss Universe Great Britain right now, and there's Miss Supranational happening overseas. So pageant season is in full swing, which also means that there's going to be probably a fair few of you who are going to be somewhat upset, if you're honest with yourself. And by the way, if you're one of those people who didn't win, but yet you're fully proud of yourself and completely happy with your performance, keep that up. I applaud you, because that sort of mentality is pretty much going to guarantee your success in whatever you do, as much as success can be guaranteed. So, as I said, this not necessarily a positive episode, but I think a very, very important one. And if you have any questions about any of it, shoot me an email or shoot me a message, and I will be happy to help you out in whatever way I can. All right, take care of yourself, and I will speak to you next time.